Hello and welcome. If this is the first time you've joined us here, my name is Keith Thompson. I'm the evangelist working with the Armadale Church of Christ here in beautiful Western Australia. We're starting a new series today on the parables of Jesus Christ. Now, there's so many parables in the scripture. Some of them are quite long, others are just simply one verse, and they cover a whole gamut of different subjects. Many of them talk about the kingdom of God. But what we want to look at this time is, why did Jesus teach in parables? Now, the word parable is a transliteration from the Greek word parabole, which means a setting aside, side by side, or to compare. I liken it like when I was at school. I remember being taught what parallel lines were. And it's like, if you see railway lines, those two lines are parallel. They're sitting side by side. And so too with a parable. What we have is an earthly story. Maybe it's the parable of the sower, or the parable of the Good Samaritan, or the prodigal son, and that's the earthly story, but it's laid alongside a spiritual truth. And the key for us when we're studying the parables of Jesus is not just simply look at that earthly story, but go into the spiritual meaning of it. Jesus wants us all to be his disciples. Now, Jesus himself gave us a definition of what a disciple is. We find it in Luke chapter 6 and verse 40. A pupil is not above his teacher, but everyone after he has been fully trained will be like his teacher. A pupil is the same word for disciple. We have to strive to become like Jesus. Jesus wants his followers to be learners. We have to use our mind, and that, my friends, is in a nutshell of why Jesus taught in parables. But we're not going to leave it there. We're going to look at what Jesus said in Matthew chapter 13, where he first started teaching in parables. We're going to pick up the passage in verse 10. Now, Jesus has just taught the parable of the sower. We're going to be looking at that, Lord willing, next week. And so in Matthew 13, starting in verse 10, we read, "And the disciples came to him and said to him, 'Why do you speak to them in parables?' Jesus answered them, 'To you it has been granted to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it has not been granted. For whoever has, to him more shall be given, and he shall have an abundance. But whoever does not have, even what he has shall be taken away from him. Therefore I speak to them in parables, because while seeing they do not see, while hearing they do not hear, nor do they understand.'" Jesus is making it clear. He is teaching in parables for those who are spiritually appraised, those who are willing to look at the spiritual side of it. And as such, as we look into that, we can see a depth in the parables. We can read the earthly story. The parable of the sower is about a man sowing seed. And if that's all we're interested in, that's all we're going to take from it. But if we stop and think, what is the Lord trying to teach us through this parable? Then we will gain riches untold, spiritual riches, and understanding of how God works, how the kingdom of God works, and how we work in the kingdom. Notice as we go on down in Matthew 13, verses 16 and 17, he says to his disciples, "Blessed are your eyes because they see, and your ears because they hear. For truly I say to you, many prophets and righteous men desire to see what you see and did not see it, and to hear what you see and did not hear it." We too are blessed, because we now can sit at the Lord's feet, read through these parables and learn from them. Things that the prophets and righteous men of old strongly desired to know, but they never were taught it. Now we are taught it. So stick with us in the next few weeks. Every week we're planning to put forward a new video on parables. Next week, as I said, we plan to be doing the parable of the sower. So join us. If you haven't, subscribe. Click the like button and come back and see us each week. We thank you and we say goodbye for now.